facilities, micromanaging the war, obsessing over which village Russia may or may not take on the battlefield in Ukraine in the coming weeks. And he's becoming increasingly detached from the normal affairs of state. And you started to see this actually create some political blowback for him because the economy is not doing very well. Russia has been shutting down mobile internet in Moscow and all across the country, and that made people pretty unhappy. Putin's approval ratings took a hit.
So the fear and security measures reportedly increased after a Russian general was killed by a car bomb in Moscow. You talked about the drone strikes. This was a car bomb. And apparently in a heated meeting at the Kremlin, Putin's top military and security personnel blamed each other. So it sort of devolved into a finger-pointing exercise. So, what is the stability right now of Putin's inner circle?
I think the real lesson from this reporting and this intelligence report is that Putin doesn't really have an inner circle anymore, even of the very tight circle of intimates that he had over the previous 25 years that he's been in power. The civilian officials who were told of all that he was planning the war, most of the oligarchs that he built up who were among his closest friends, with very few exceptions, they're not really involved in this. They don't see him really very often at all because he's only released regularly who are in his immediate family or they're directly involved in planning the war. And when you see these generals who are being blown up, unlike Putin, they don't have anything like the kind of security that Putin has. Many of them were hit with bombs right at their homes, at their front doors, of their buildings, and there wasn't a dedicated security agency that was really working on protecting these people. The Defense Ministry didn't have one, and so that obviously is going to lead to a lot of squabbling, and that certainly does not make for a cohesive war effort.
Fascinating what Max is saying at this point. Putin doesn't even really have an inner circle anymore. Is this all just paranoia, or does Putin have reason, do you think, at this specific moment, to be this afraid?
No, he's of course paranoid, but fears are real. Putin knows from Russian history that there's one thing that led to massive changes, sometimes revolutions. It's a bad war. If the war goes well, the Russian public never cared about the price to pay for victory. The cost was irrelevant. But bad wars, unwinnable wars, led to changes. It's the Russo-Japanese War in the beginning of the 20th century led to the constitutional monarchy. The bad war of World War I, so the stalemate, led to the collapse of Romanov dynasty. 1989, the retreat from Afghanistan and basically the failure in a Cold War led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. And while I may disagree about this, it's the inner circle making decisions about war against Ukraine. There was a kind of consensus that Russia would easily win. But this war now looks unwinnable, and we can just hear it by just reading, just even pro-war bloggers now, they express doubts that Putin can deliver, and that's the greatest threat to Russian dictator. If people believe he's weak, weakness is something that always led to the disaster.
So your piece today was titled "Putin is in Trouble." You were writing about those military bloggers. You're also talking about, what is the impact, and Max referenced this, but to the internet suddenly being shut down, to having this big May 9th thing that is usually, massive troops and tanks and all of these things be this small pared back thing.
Yeah, look, as bad wars led to the trouble, good wars, won wars always created, the special aura for the regime. That's why Putin and before him Soviet leaders always tried to capitalize on the World War II, the victory. So that's why the May 9th parade, by the way, Russia always celebrated May 9th because Stalin didn't want to do it on May 8th as the rest of the world, was a kind of sacred date. This is what made us great. And for Putin to recognize that he should actually not just reduce it, no more tanks, that's already a sign of weakness. But the biggest challenge for him now is that in the beginning of this full-scale invasion in February 2022, Putin skillfully, managed it by avoiding, Moscow, St. Petersburg, other big cities to be involved. No body bags there. So he looked for either prisons or some, depressed regions or some national republics. So big cities, especially Moscow, never felt the heat of the war. The last few months, it's not just They know that. They know that they have to pay the price. And also, many oligarchs, they have to also suffer financial losses because all these, refineries and plants, somebody owns them.
Right, that are getting hit by the drones.
Exactly. So, and Ukrainians are very successful. Almost every day, they hit one or two targets.
One person at the beginning of the war who was very close to Putin was Sergei Shoigu, a former defense minister. He had his ups and downs, but he's been a Putin ally. And now the intel report that Nick Payton Walsh obtained says, and he's still on the Security Council for Putin, says that Shoigu is, quote, associated with the risk of a coup. All right, I'm curious about two things. Do you think that's the case? And I guess there's also this. If this comes out and is now in public, what happens to Sergei Shoigu when Putin sees this report?
Look, I think it's hearsay. It's just the rumors. But remember Prigozhin.
Yeah.
It's the Prigozhin's rebellion was also about the war in Ukraine. But at that time, majority of Russian elite, including the army, supported Putin because they thought war in Ukraine was too profitable. Right now, it's a big loss. And again, the war is unwinnable. And the public opinion, of course, it's dictatorship, but it's public opinion among Russian elite, both in economic, political, and of course, military, is now openly expressing doubts that Putin can lead the country. Again, Russian history tells us this is the beginning of the end.
One of the claims that's often made by war hawks is that, it's not that big of a deal to invade Iran. We'll invade Iran, and right now is the best time to do it because it has been weakened as a result of the 12-day war. Iran's regime has further been weakened as a result of the protests that took place against the regime recently. It's an argument that you'll hear made over and over again. In fact, one of the biggest war hawks and individuals who tends to cheerlead a war with Iran is Senator Lindsey Graham, and here he is making that point.
The Iranian Ayatollah and his murderous regime are at their weakest point since 1979. Their economy is in shambles, their military has been degraded, there are people in the streets, Iranian people in the streets demanding an end to oppression. All these forces are coming together. We must meet the moment.
But in reality, going to war with Iran could potentially spark World War III. And I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic, because there has already been some indication that both Russia and China would back Iran in a hot war with the United States and Israel. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we've learned in recent days. So apparently China gifted a scale model of their J-20 stealth fighter to Iran's Air Force commander, Brigadier General Hamid Vahidi. And it was a symbolic gesture, essentially signaling to the West that China not only would back Iran, they see this potential war as a security threat for them. So there's the China angle, but we should also keep in mind that Russia is very likely going to back Iran as well. And so whether we like it or not, we are already living in a multipolar world. And when it comes to Russia and China, we're talking about countries that have impressive military capabilities. And if they're willing to arm Iran, fighting Iran isn't going to be as easy as Lindsey Graham would have you believe. And I want to go to one more video here because you're about to hear from a British diplomat and the director of the Beirut-based Conflicts Forum. His name is Alistair Crook, and he was on one of my favorite shows regarding foreign policy to kind of discuss the military capabilities that Iran now has as a result of China's help. So take a quick look at this.
The Chinese have given already to Iran the YouTube chicks.
You know what to do, Chicks. Fine. I like Chicks Move. Chicks Move is somebody I really enjoy listening to on YouTube because Chick just got an intellectual curiosity about things.
Well, damn, Carlos, tell us how you really feel. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of We Gotta Figure Out Who the Fuck is Lying to Us. Between Nick Cannon, the boss, and Carlos Miller, the employee, somebody's lying to us about how Carlos Miller got fired from Wildin' Out. Now, sometimes in business, you gotta make tough decisions. That decision also includes firing somebody that's loved by the fans. And for Nick Cannon, being the face of a show that's owned by a bigger company, a lot of people blame you for when things go wrong. Now, Nick Cannon recently sat down with Shannon Sharp on his podcast, and they spoke about firing Carlos Miller. According to Nick Cannon, he had absolutely nothing to do with Carlos getting fired. Nick said, I didn't fire Carlos Miller. The corporation did. Not me. I ain't had shit to do with it.
85 South is spinning off, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So, is that what you really want? You want guys like, you know what, guys? You guys, y'all got to do your own thing.
That's all I want. I remember when that whole I tried to sell MTV on the 85 South show because they were like, we need more Wild 'N Out. We do need more. Do you want to do? I was like, I don't want to do it more, but these guys are killing it.
Right.
And I was like, you better harness them now because they're going to do it with or without you. And they just didn't see the vision.
Right.
And I was like, and I remember telling them, because they was like, yo, you want to be a part of this? I was like, I'll support it however I can support it. Like, my platform is your platform, but that's y'all shit. And y'all killing it.
Right.
And it's authentic. So, I mean, even the business people that they have behind them, they're all so, like, connected and share a same vision and
Right.
really aligned. So I didn't even want to tamper with that other than telling the suits, y'all better pay attention to what they doing over here. And, you know, the rest is history.
Carlos, did you fire Carlos at one time? You fired Los?
That's what I'm saying. I didn't fire Carlos. Them people who got, and it was probably more what it was because Carlos is Carlos. And
Yeah.
Carlos is Carlos all the time.
Yes.
So whether we feel like he literally said, Nick, these funny, like he would be making people uncomfortable. What that white man behind the camera actually doing? Like he would be saying shit like that, but we cracking up laughing. But it's literally people getting nervous.
Yeah.
And so there was that aspect of Carlos' energy, which we all love.
Right.
But it made the network
people
nervous. And then just like what I said before, we all got people, and I think at that time when we have a cast of 20.
Right.
And everybody's agent wants them to make as much money as they possibly can.
Yes.
So I think whatever happened, because I clearly wasn't involved, I was like, yes, I want Carlos here. And they were like, well, this agent wants this. And the people, and we played it up because the way I feel about Wild 'N Out, no one's ever fired.
Right.
You might not do this season,
Right.
but we'll get you back next
Right.
year. You might go off and do a movie this season. You might
Right.
be focused.
Mm-hmm.
It's an open door policy, like, and so we played it up where he's like, Nick fired me, and I was like, yeah, I did it, but I had nothing to do with it. But in that sense, I damn sure made sure that Carlos was back. And then when he came back, and we could afford him, and it could however that ended up working out, I was like, yo, we got to make a big deal out of this, and we made a whole episode where he was the team captain and all of that. And,
Because when they do Wild 'N Out, they have success in Wild 'N Out. Guess what? Now you be able to go on tour, do your own thing.
100%.
You get to go do 400, 500, 600 seat theaters and make money.
And it's literally a launching pad.
Yes. Okay.
And that's the blessing that it not only will people see you successful, and that's because it's no holds bars in there. It's literally the gauntlet, and they feel like, yo, if he can make it there, he can make it anywhere.
Yes.
And so the industry pays attention to the people who shine on that platform, and more opportunities come. So whether it's from the network that we're displaying on, whether it's Paramount or Netflix or wherever that is, and then like you said, the audience recognizes, so they want to see you.
Yes.
They want you created catchphrases on the show. You created a certain persona and vibe that now audience is gonna come.
They want to see
back
30,
out.
45 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Not just hey, you going back and forth with somebody maybe 2 minutes or something like that. They want to actually see you do a whole set.
100%.
Now, on most interviews he's done talking about being fired from Wild 'N Out, Carlos Miller never blames Nick Cannon. As a matter of fact, he actually blames himself. He says, listen, I'm a comedian. I say the wrong shit all the time. Sometimes those words hurt people.
What you want to talk about? How they fired me or what? That's what you
Why
getting
you
at?
got fired?
Is that what you getting at?
Nah, just ask me.
How you got fired on your day off?
You see how I'm sitting here talking to you? I'm not acting. This is me.
Okay, I say the wrong all the time. Come on, you can't say the wrong thing to the wrong person though.
Yes, you can. That's what I've been trying to tell you. That's the same thing I was saying about Monique. Bro, I am a professional comedian.
Right.
I'm a talker. I know we can't keep saying that, but I am.
Right.
So if you hire me to do that,
Let me do that.
let me do that. I don't know what happened. That was a dope experience. I was on that show for like 10, 11 years.
Damn.
Yeah. When they first brought it back, season 5.
Yeah.
Me and Chico and Conceited and Manuel Hudson, we was the original like from season 5 that they brought back. So I've been on there ever since they brought it back. Like I even did a couple episodes in the last season that they did.
Well, after listening to Nick Cannon, Carlos said enough is enough. I'm going to speak the truth and I'm going to let everybody know exactly why I was fired. Carlos Miller responded to this clip that was posted by Club Shay Shay. He said, that's right, he don't fire nobody. He gets them other motherfuckers to do it and act like he don't know shit about it. Then he goes on to address what Nick Cannon said in the clip. He said Carlos Miller drama includes asking to be paid correctly, to stop giving writing credits to motherfuckers who ain't wrote shit for nobody, and to be paid for all the shows that are being used as monetized content on social media. When they can't use you and exploit you, you're the problem. Now these are some very heavy allegations by Carlos. He continues, MTV, you should get some better representation if you don't like the offer. Then once he gets better representation to negotiate a better deal, MTV says, fuck this guy. Am I right? I wasn't gonna say shit, but they keep bringing this shit up and trying to make me look crazy. Got the whole black community thinking I did some shit to them folks. I was just a nigga at work that ain't gonna let motherfuckers handle me any kind of way. That's why I don't give a fuck about none of this shit, cause it ain't real. Just give me that little money we talked about and you'll never have a problem with me. That's always been my approach. Now, keep in mind, even though Wild 'N Out is technically Nick Cannon's show, he's also been fired from the show as well. Everybody has to report to somebody. And yes, even Nick Cannon. I know sometimes people want to paint Nick Cannon out to be some kind of dirty, evil manipulator, somebody that's been in the game for a while and somebody that does not care about black people. I've seen all types of tap dancing jokes on Nick Cannon. Me personally, I don't think Nick had anything to do with Carlos getting fired. Just like he said in an interview with Shannon Sharp, he gives people opportunities to use Wild 'N Out as a launching pad to something else. And to be fair, if it's any consolation, look at MTV right now and look at where Carlos Miller is right now. Sometimes, some shit is just out of your control. You guys get in the comments below. What do you guys make of Carlos Miller trying to air out Nick Cannon? Do you guys think Nick had anything to do with Carlos getting fired from the show? Like this video, subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys later, man.
You guys remember how before we had a president who was an old man who said crazy things? We had a president who was an old man who said crazy things? Well, Joe Biden's not the president anymore, but he is still very old.
At an event at Syracuse University yesterday, former President Joe Biden called out a man who he thought looked like Barack Obama.
And by the way, I always want to turn around to one guy and say, Barack, what are you doing?
Is this gonna be like I hope he's not just pointing to some black guy, but I also hope it's at least a black guy. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, please let him look like Obama. Please let him look like Obama.
I feel like he should be standing to the right and I should be standing to the left.
Oh, thank God. Close enough. I mean, I'm not saying he looks a lot like Obama, but it's in the ballpark. I thought for sure it was gonna be like Lil Wayne or something. In fact, I don't know how to explain this, but somehow that guy looks more like Obama than Joe Biden looks like Joe Biden. But still, what a high-risk, low-reward move that was. I mean, at best, the audience is like, oh, yeah, I guess I can see it. And at worst is they send you off to a nursing home for racists. Speaking of a nursing home for racists, let's check in with the White House to see how our current president is doing. Good thing America's preeminent TV doctor, Dr. Oz, is keeping an eye on Trump's health.
Your dad argues that diet soda is good for him because it kills grass. It's poured on grass, so therefore must kill cancer cells inside the body. So he'll try to please.
Diet Coke kills grass, so Diet Coke must be good for me is a crazy theory. Like this kills plants, so
That's
safe to
sad.
assume it'll kill cancer cells and not everything else in my body is flawless logic. Also, why does he think that diet soda kills grass? That's not a thing. Like, are we sure he hasn't accidentally been drinking Roundup? Like, that would explain a lot, actually. By the way, I love how Don Jr. just laughs at this. Like, if someone told me this about my dad, I'd be concerned. But Don Jr.'s just like, oh yeah, yeah, my dad's brain sure is bad. But let's move on, because having a body that's 80% Diet Coke isn't Trump's only problem right now. Recent polls show that young Republicans are starting to turn on Trump, especially over the war with Iran. But Donald Trump is not worried because he's got the one guy who is the Trump Max Gen Z again. Talking to Vice President J.D. Vance. Yesterday, he went to a TPUSA event, and just look at the packed crowd that came out to see him. Oh my God, I've never seen such a handful of people.
Jo, jag måste. Bruh.
What I'm saying is, don't get disengaged because you disagree with the administration on one topic. Get more involved. Make your voice heard even more. That's how we ultimately take the country back.
Yeah. That's right, JD. It's time to take the country back from yourself? Like, what are you talking about? Taking back from what? Republicans have everything. Republicans control the Congress, the White House, the Supreme Court, all media.
Josh Shapiro apparently just decided to shoot his 2028 chances directly in the penis because he just fucking. I mean, this is rough. This is rough in the year 2028 to see this. Bob Brooks, firefighters union leader and Democratic Pennsylvania 7th District candidate, says Governor Josh Shapiro asked his union to support a Republican candidate for Pennsylvania treasurer in 2024 after the Democrat candidate questioned his ability to be VP to Kamala Harris. So somebody said, like, I don't really want Josh Shapiro for VP. And he took that so personally, and he's so petty and vindictive, that he was like, I'm going to back the Republican in that race. What a fucking scoundrel. What a fucking self-obsessed weasel. Holy shit. Layla says here, fun fact about Josh Shapiro, when he was in high school, he told his classmates that by 2028 he would become president. Since then, he has covered up a murder, that's literal by the way, look into that, signed bombs to be dropped on children, there's a video of him signing the bombs too that were dropped in Gaza, and sabotaged fellow Democrats, all leading up to a failed presidential bid. So here we go. Axios says, Scoop, Shapiro boosted Republican to retaliate against fellow Dem ally, says in recording. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro secretly helped a Republican state treasurer's 2024 re-election bid after the official's Democratic opponent had criticized Shapiro as a potential VP pick, a close Shapiro ally said last week. Bob Brooks, a Shapiro-backed candidate for the U.S. House, made the surprising comment Wednesday to a small group of Democratic college students. Axios obtained a recording of his remarks, which also were confirmed by a person at the meeting. Helping a Republican over a Democrat, especially in response to personal criticism, could become a liability if Shapiro runs for president in 2028. Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. It could also feed the idea, held even by some Shapiro supporters, that he can be vindictive, takes critiques too personally, and be willing to push aside allies to get ahead. Brooks' comments referred to summer of 2024 when Shapiro was being vetted by Kamala Harris' team as her possible running mate. The Democratic candidate for Pennsylvania treasurer at the time, Aaron McClelland, had publicly questioned whether Shapiro could be a subordinate to a female president. Brooks, who's also the president of Pennsylvania's Firefighters Union, told students at Lehigh last week that Shapiro had asked his union to back Republican Stacey Garrity over McClelland in 2024 state treasurer race. Jesus Christ. That was a request, ironically, from Governor Josh Shapiro because Aaron McClelland was running against her, Brooks told the students. Brooks added, Josh Shapiro requested because Stacey, Aaron McClelland, came out hard about something on Josh Shapiro, and really the Democratic Party as a whole turned on Aaron McClelland, and he said, I would like you guys to endorse Stacey Garrity. Brooks mentioned Shapiro's move after a person at the Lehigh gathering asked Brooks why his union had backed Garrity in 2024. Asked to comment for the story, Brooks said in a statement, I misspoke and made an inaccurate comment. Oh no, oh no! Many people in our party, including organized labor across the Commonwealth, were upset with McClelland's bad faith attacks against our governor. The governor did not ask my union to make any endorsements. Oh no! So they say this. So what happened here? Oh, I guarantee you Shapiro reached out to this guy through back channels and was like, you sure you want to say that, son? You better go ahead and take that back, or else this vindictiveness could be pointed in your direction. I could ruin your career too. Oh no! Oh God, this is horrible. Shapiro spokesperson Manuel Bonder said Brooks' Wednesday comment was inaccurate, adding the governor did not ask Bob Brooks to make any endorsements in that race, and the only races he is focused on are winning up and down the ballot this November. Oh no, Sean! That's when you get caught and then you're trying to cover your tracks. Oh no, I'm up and down ticket for the Democrats. That's me. I'm non-vindictive man. They call me the least vindictive man on the planet. That's who I am. Spokespeople for Shapiro and Brooks declined to make them available for interviews. A Garrity spokesperson did not provide a comment. Oh, he's panicking. Pennsylvania Professional Firefighters Association Secretary-Treasurer Pat Martin said McClelland didn't apply for the union's endorsement in 2024. Shapiro was close to Brooks and has gone all out to support him in his bid for a U.S. House seat, encouraging him to run and then appearing in a direct-to-camera TV ad for Brooks in a crowded Democratic primary. The episode, described by Brooks on Wednesday, appeared to reflect Shapiro's penchant for hardball political tactics, even against fellow Democrats. See, that's the thing, bro. If you're using hardball political tactics and is targeted against the right, I will fucking ride hard for you. Because the right are demons. They're satanic. They're fucking evil. They want evil for the country. They want you to suffer. They want you to feel pain. They want you to die. That's what they want. And so if you're willing to use hardball tactics against them, that's called being intelligent. But if you're using hardball tactics because you have a fucking fragile ego and somebody made an accurate criticism of you, that's where I think you're a piece of shit. And so, remember, you gotta remember, how many times have we heard from moderates, shut the fuck up and vote blue no matter who, right? Well, guess what? That has to cut both ways. That has to also cut in the direction of, like, what if it's a left-wing candidate that gets through and it's not a squishy moderate that you people generally like? Well, in that scenario, yeah, suck it up and deal with it. And this is a test that should be easier to pass than that, where it's like, oh, a Democrat who criticized you versus a Republican. If you're going with the fucking Republican, secretly, quietly, behind the scenes, then trying to cover it up, oh, that's unacceptable. They say Harris's team heard complaints about Shapiro from Pennsylvania Democrats as it vetted him for the VP nomination. Harris eventually chose Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Shapiro wrote in his memoir that he took himself out of contention to be Harris's number 2 late in the vetting process. That's such bullshit, man. Holy shit. Apparently he went in there and he was very, like, demanding, and he was like a prima donna, and Walz went in there and he's like, yeah, let's win. Like, what do you need from me? I'll do whatever the fuck you want. And Shapiro was like, so let me tell you my ground rules. And Kamala's like, what the fuck are you doing? And again, Pennsylvania Democrats were like, hey, this guy's fucking high maintenance, this guy's vindictive, this guy's petty. She's like, I don't want to fucking deal with that. I don't want to deal with that at all. McClelland's break with Shapiro went public in July 2024 when she posted on X, I want a VP pick that's secure enough to be second under a woman, is content to be VP, and won't undermine the president to maneuver his own election, and doesn't sweep sexual harassment under the rug. Or how about murder? Sweeping murder under the rug. That was a reference to Shapiro's former top aide, Mike Vereb, being accused of sexual harassment in 2023. Vereb stayed in his position for months after a complaint was filed, and Shapiro's administration reached a settlement with Vereb's accuser for $295,000. Jesus. Shapiro maintained that he didn't know about the complaint by Vereb's accuser. That's bullshit. Until months after it was made, the governor declined to endorse McClelland in 2024. Garrity won re-election to her state treasurer's post in 2024, and in a twist is challenging Shapiro for governor this year. Pennsylvania's Democratic primary has called Garrity an election denier with an extreme MAGA agenda. Garrity spoke at a rally at Pennsylvania's Capitol on January 5th, 2021 that called for decertifying the state's vote for Joe Biden. Later at the Donald Trump rally in 2022, Garrity said, "We know that he won." More recently, Garrity has tried to walk back some of her past comments about the 2020 election. Shapiro is heavily favored to defeat her, given his double-digit lead in polls and massive fundraising advantage. This is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal in 2028, where Democrats have this renewed sense of unity in a way. I mean, of course you have the elites trying to excise the left. That's what the whole Hassan Piker freakout is about. But among Democratic voters, there's a sense of no, for real. Like, we need to defeat these demons. We got to defeat them by any means necessary. If that means going left, so be it. But if there's anybody in the tent who happens to be moderate, well, we're with you over the Republicans. And Shapiro, I mean, this is the cardinal sin he's committed here by, for personal, petty, vindictive reasons, shitting on a Dem and bolstering a Republican. I don't think that's going to fly. I really don't in 2021. And this is who this guy is. This is who he is. This is who he's always been. And, yeah, I think, if anything, these qualities are just going to come out more and more and more as time goes by. And, he'll be much more unlikable. I basically what I'm trying to say is, however high his approval rating is today is the highest it's ever going to be. It's only going to go down. We saw what happened when he stepped down to the national spotlight when he went on to Pod Save America and he was defending Israel. And, oh man, even the Pod Save audience, the liberal Pod Save audience, was not buying what he was selling, not even a little bit, with his mealy-mouthed nonsense around Israel. So he's just not simpatico with the base. If anything, he's going to try to pave a centrist path running in 2028. But he's going to find out very quickly that shit is going to crash against the rocks because people are not in a fucking moderate mood. Not even close. All right, y'all, that's the show. Love y'all very much. You guys know the deal. Everybody subscribe to the channel and click that bell icon. Support the show on Patreon. Sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. All that stuff is below me here. And go sub to Corin's World, where we do live Colin Corin episodes. All right, I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. I'm out. Peace. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.
That's a good pivot, actually, to the Iran war. While we have you, I figure we could ask you a few things about, where you believe this conflict is right now. You've been floating the idea that perhaps the U.S. could just kind of walk away. I mean, we are in this kind of limbo state right now. I'm concerned. We had Robert Pape on the show as well, who's also concerned that wouldn't be a stable outcome, that it's almost very difficult to avoid the idea that because the economic damage would persist so long as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais, ça? Zoom.
Je joue avec mon bébé.
You okay?
Oui.
Okay. Tu veux Biggie?
Quoi?
Tu veux Biggie?
Sure.
Tu veux ça?
Je sais pas.
Ouais. Je vais te laisser drive ta voiture aujourd'hui.
Quoi?
J'ai dit, je vais te laisser drive ta voiture aujourd'hui.
Ok.
J'ai fait 2 autres missions. Puis je vais partir.
Ok.
Swing, swing, swing.
Yeah.
Pourquoi t'as mis les écouteurs?
Quoi?
Pourquoi t'as mis les écouteurs?
Oh, j'ai pensé à poster maintenant. Écouteur. Mais j'ai pensé à poster mettre écouteur.
Mais pourquoi?
Parce que monsieur veut.
Pourquoi? Pourquoi chaque fois que je viens ici, je te donne les écouteurs pour mettre? Pourquoi?
Parce que moi, ça fait beaucoup de bruit.
Ok. So, c'est quoi que t'as peine de faire avec ça?
Pas beaucoup de bruit.
Non, c'est pas vrai.